applications. And it allows you to easily just deploy one of your Drupal apps or any other popular frameworks, like you can see on the screen. And it automates a lot of some things that you would do with a like a VPS, with DigitalOcean or anything like that. But it doesn't use DigitalOcean, or it's not a provisioning platform, which you might have heard of before. It's a all-in-one hosting and deployment platform. And today I'll show a demo of importing a Drupal application that is hosted on GitHub, github.com/amezmo/Drupal demo. And it shows one of the ways that Amezmo automates bringing environment variables for the database. So we have a mechanism to read them from an environment file, and there's a module called Amezmo Drupal integrations, which is similar to something you might use on Pantheon. They have some plugin that reads the database password from the or module that reads the database password from the environment. And yeah, there's also a backdrop support too that's recently been rolled out. And Jen Lampton did a demo of backdrop at the backdrop meetup a couple weeks ago. And yeah, I'll just go ahead and get started. So the first step is to just go to the sites.new and launch an instance. And then I'll pick Drupal. And then I'll just call it, webcam demo or something. But a name's automatically chosen based on a randomized dictionary. And we just choose a region. There's 4 regions now: United Kingdom, Australia, United States, and Canada at this time. And then you can choose your PHP version. Up to 8.1 is supported at this time. There's also Solr support for Drupal applications in Backdrop, and then MySQL, and also Composer. All the normal things that you might be used to using. All right, and then there's 4 types. They really they cross align. I think that's the word. And I'll just use the developer one for now. It's default. And so what happens here is it actually is just provisioning up a new Docker container through the backing infrastructure, which is hosted on AWS. It uses EC2 instances, just the raw EC2 instances, to provide the compute. And this was using a Docker image that has a lot of the defaults that you might need for PHP development, like ImageMagick and various other things that are generally required, like for a lot of PHP apps these days. Okay, so the instance was provisioned, and now this is the Git integrations. There's 3 right now, which I think is the most popular in my opinion. GitHub, of course, GitLab, and Bitbucket. So I'll choose GitHub. And then we just need to use OAuth to connect. And I'll authorize this. This is my account. And at that point, it allows Amezmo to pull in the repos. So you can get a nice drop down of all your repos. And I'll choose this. This is open source, by the way, in case anyone's interested in seeing how some of the things work. Okay, and one of the cool things is that it automates a lot of the stuff you would usually configure in Apache or Nginx, like for example, the web root. You might have edited an Nginx file or Apache file one time or maybe regularly. So Amezmo knows that configuration ahead of time when you choose the Drupal app. And continue, and then we can start the deployment. And this is live, so it's using a WebSocket to pull in the messages that are emitted automatically, or not automatically, in real time. So how it works is it creates a deploy key on GitHub, which is an SSH key that lives in the container. that you can SSH into an Amezmo, and that allows it to pull the code in because you need the code, obviously, right? And I made sure that the minimum permissions are required, right? I didn't want to, request everything. So that there was a lot of thought put into those permissions because I understand some people might be sensitive to uh, giving access to repo, or there might be some policy things that prohibit giving access. Maybe not these days. I don't know really anymore. I haven't got too many concerns about that, but I was always sensitive to that. Okay, cool. So the deployment completed, and these messages are just how the composer install works. A lot of the things that Amezmo does in the hooking system, for example, there's hooks that you can uh, use to add custom functionality. It's just bash scripts, but they're called something, so Amezmo can find them. So let me go to the actual site first so we can see the result. So this was just a fresh Drupal installation with some modules installed. And one of the cool things is we'll see that the database step was skipped, right? Because Amezmo was able to generate the environment variables, and then with the Amezmo Drupal integration, it plugs into the environment and pulls them automatically. And by the way, I'm located in Chicago. I don't think I said that in the beginning. Cool. And this is it. I mean, it's a fresh installation. I wish I had a existing site, but Jen Lambton has migrated sites from Pantheon to Amezmo, and she also has some sites from that are owned or operated or administrated by UC Berkeley on Amezmo platform today. And I'm sure everyone's familiar with this UI. I can go back to some of the other details that we might have glossed over. So it pulls in the code from GitHub with SSH. Another cool thing is that we can also trigger a deployment from just pushing. So for example, if we just clone the repo and then push to it, we can see that it will just start a deployment automatically, which might be familiar to a lot of people. It's not exactly like, innovative, but it works pretty well. So I'll just do a commit here. I think Pantheon has similar functionality. We have to push. There we go. So that was just a real-time update because it uses a WebSocket connection to listen for deployments. And I didn't refresh the page. I don't know if people caught that, but this is really cool. Yes, totally SSH access is allowed. So I can do it. I can go over that too. It looks like we have time. So let's just do that then. So how SSH access works. First, we need to just enable it here, and then we have to add a trusted IP. By default, it doesn't expose it to the 0.0.0 subnet. Anyone can't just access it through the internet. So we just add trusted IPs, and this is my IP here. It just completes it automatically for the first time. but any IPv4 address is supported besides the local IP address range. And also any of the Anycast IPCIDRs aren't supported either. So then you have to add a public key. So I'll just show one of the SSH keys that I use, the public key, which is accessible to everyone. So there's nothing exposed here in terms of private keys. Amezmo doesn't know about the private key. Okay. And to get online or access, and there we are. We're inside the container. So it's just a familiar environment, Ubuntu, and we can see the deployment here is located in the releases and deployment 2, and that has the exact same layout as you would see on the GitHub site. Yeah, and this contains all your previous releases too. So if you ever needed to, dive into something, if something's not working, then it's all right here. It's very open. So that was one of the principles, like making sure that we can do things that we are used to with like a VPS instead of it being a closed system. And within the repo, these are the hooks I was talking about. There's a .amezmo directory that would live in your GitHub repo. And this is one of them after .pull. We can see that was executed in that deployment. We click on a deployment, 2, since we're looking at 2 in the directory. And after .pull is executed here, and that corresponds directly to this file. Yeah, cool. So a lot of times we have persistent stores like images and user upload content. So Amezmo definitely understands that need, and there's built-in functionality to ensure that things are there upon subsequent deployments. So this hook was just setting that up, and it does some things like mapping things to the persistent directory. It is automated some for the common case. For example, we have the setting, but many instances people have a custom setup, and we haven't been able to fully automate it just because of the constraints that some folks have, or a lot of legacy apps too. I mean, a lot of legacy apps have a certain functionality. Oh yeah, I forgot this. This is just a standard metrics that are common, right? Like CPU and memory. This is all backed by Prometheus, and you can also set alerts. This is a thing that might be useful, but it's based on the Prometheus and some charting libraries that are open source. Yeah, that's pretty much the core of it. Oh, let me go into one other thing that's important. So the databases, right? Like, how do we back up the database? So that was set up. Yeah, so each deployment are copies of the Git repo. Build artifacts, nothing generated except the composer install. That would be an artifact of the deployment if you automate the composer install with the setting, which is the default. But that's not required. Yeah. And then I'll stop after this. It looks like there's some questions. And I'll just go over this backup functionality real quick because it's pretty cool. It's always a question, right? It's important. I mean, because one of the principles of Amezmo was that people can just leave Amezmo at any time. Like that was one of the core values of building this, is that there's no desire to uh, lock people in, right? Vendor lock-in. There's no proprietary functionality that would prevent you from leaving, because it's just pulling your Git repos, and it does have a lot of convenience. So we've seen that people appreciate the convenience features and a lot of the automations, and it's not obvious until you try to go somewhere else and you see, oh, I have to do all this manual things from this raw Linux system. Okay, cool. So that backed up, and it's a scheduled backup too. So we can automate that daily. So for example, we can have a retention limit and then picking the start time, and you can encrypt them too. And then what is it? 326. Oh, we got that wrong. 518. Oh, I'm not going to see, so awesome to see the backup feature now. Not committed to your service. Oh, wow, okay, cool. So we have some folks that have seen Amezmo before. That's awesome. I appreciate this so much. It's always so flattering to see people that have heard of it, because we're relatively small. It's just me, right? There's no venture capital and uh, institutional investment. So thank you. Appreciate that. Then we can see the backup come in about 2 minutes. But yeah, I think I got all the core features. There's also some other features, but like domains and SSL. Um, that's automated with Let's Encrypt. Let's Encrypt's awesome. And that just, creates those certificates. And then the only manual step you need is adding the A record or the CNAME, and then it pretty much just works and it renews automatically. Don't have to think about it. Cool. Well, I think that's it for the demo. If there's any questions, I would appreciate, I would be honored to answer them. I'm sorry.
Right. Ryan, can you show how deployments are made between staging and production? I know there's different approaches to that, so I'm kind of
Right.
curious.
Yeah, totally. Totally. I forgot to go over that. That's a pretty good point. Um, so with the staging, it's it's a different environment for your apps, and it's just a way to deploy like another branch and test it, right? Or maintain a staging environment or test environments. And for example, let me create a branch. Oh, I've got some chats. I'm sorry if I missed any messages earlier. Um, I did know that there was some other things. Um, Yeah, that's a good question. I think the support definitely has been uh what with people feeling that there's something to be desired for sure. That's been one of the biggest challenges for me is to make sure that everyone feels supported and gets that support when they need it. Because one of the hardest parts that I've seen is getting that initial deployment to succeed, right? Over the past 5 years, I've seen that a lot of people may have not got the initial support they needed, and it does, it's a really big driver of people to go away from Mesmo because a lot of people need support in the beginning, and I haven't been able to scale that by myself. Um, and we've had some people helping in the community, like Steven is a good person to call out here. Uh, and I've appreciated all the help in the Slack community. We have Slack, so yeah, I don't have an answer on what the plan is. I think the only plan that I can see is to hire people, but that's impossible for me to do at this time because there just isn't the funding available to be able to hire people um at this time. So there's been a lot of organic growth with the Mesmo, and that's one of the biggest challenges. I'm looking for a solution to the problem for sure. I'm sorry that if you had I apologize. And if you come back, I can totally make sure you get support. And I know it's like a non-apology, but I'm really sorry. I do take it really seriously. Okay, cool. So the staging is basically just another branch. So we can pick the branch. And it's really flexible. So it's very flexible and you can choose any branch. Even in production, it doesn't tie you to a specific branch. Like you're free to choose staging if you want in production. There's no policy enforcement, right? So the staging works exactly like production, except it won't affect your production environment. So you can see that a domain was generated called staging slash, and that deployment hasn't finished yet. So that's why we have the 404. I saw there's another question.
I think there was a question about caching, the caching feature, whether it was based on varnish or if there's a CDN component as well. I don't know if you addressed that one.
All right, thanks for reminding me, Tori. I saw that, but I forgot. So no, there's not like an integration with any of the CDNs. It's really what you would see here is just a wrapper around the fast CGI caching that allows you to cache the output of the PHP FPM daemon, right? So you don't have to generate that dynamic web page again. So Nginx would store it in a static file, and then upon subsequent request for that particular key, and the key would be like the URL, then it would just serve it directly from the disk or in memory if you have plugin. But and it just serves that. So it saves some time in generating the dynamic web pages. But it's really good because I think the CDN components, it's been one of the major questions. And there's opportunity to integrate with the CDNs, at least for cache invalidation, right? For example, if you have Cloudflare, we can integrate into that API to purge the cache. And yeah. And this deployment succeeded for staging, and staging it'll look exactly like the production. But the key thing about this is it won't affect your production live environment that you might be serving to customers or users. Yes. Cool. Yeah, and we have a Slack community that's fairly active, I think. And if anyone joins you can just go to the Amezmo site here and hit like the join Slack button. And we have docs too. This doc has been evolved over the past 5 years, and a lot of people, a lot of organizations have the edit functionality. We had the edit functionality as well since day one. And there's been a lot of generous contributors that make pull requests to this documentation, and yeah, that's all I have pretty much. I don't want to keep rambling, but I appreciate this opportunity to present Amezmo, and thank you very, very much.
I have a quick question. I don't see your company in the providers for backdrop. Is there any reason why you're not there, or you didn't have time to join, or because this is great product, and it's important to be able to point our customers to, people who are certified providers, so people who know what they're kind of basically know what they're doing.
Yeah, so when I was in the Backdrop meetup a few weeks ago, we discussed that, and they were open to, and they wanted the link. I have to do a little bit of work because it's going to be a special link. That was the plan, to try to give a free trial based on the link. But I know that we're in agreement to get Amezmo on that provider page. I have to finish that work. And with that, thank you for calling that out. I think it's really grateful to be in that directory. And soon we'll be there.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for sharing this with us this morning. Does anyone have any other questions that they want to unmute themselves or drop themselves in chat?